Val Kilmer was the #1 choice to star in David Lynch's movie. And I like this picture actually here. It's actually pretty cool. Another Top Gun alum. Interesting. Could have been him. I don't hate it. I don't hate this idea. Val Kilmer's a great actor. Obviously, I think it just worked out. It worked out in the end. But this is very interesting. A what if scenario. That this could have been Val Kilmer in the role of Paul Atreides. So again, this is Joe Blow is commenting on this excerpt from this book. And this is again, according to production office assistant Craig Campobasso. And he said, quote, "We screen tested Michael Biehn, Kevin Costner, Lewis Smith. There were a few others. Val Kilmer, of course, because Val was actually the #1 choice up until Kyle did his screen test. Paul Muad'Dib is not an easy character. Kyle made it look easy, but if you saw all the other actors struggling, Michael Biehn did not live up to it, Kevin Costner did not. It's not that they're bad actors, they just didn't fit the criteria for Paul Muad'Dib because you're looking for this inner strength. Kevin Costner wasn't known at that time, and I do remember him being nervous because I helped him get into the costume of Paul Muad'Dib, and I could feel his sense of nerves about it. So that's very interesting too. Michael Biehn from Aliens. It's funny because now that I think about it, Michael Biehn kind of looks like Alec Newman-ish, the Paul from the Dune miniseries. Kevin Costner, yeah, no. And I wonder when exactly was this in terms of Kevin Costner's career. So this would have been in, what, 1983? Possibly sooner? Lewis Smith, yeah, I looked that up. I didn't recognize any of the projects he was in. He's not in a lot. I think he was a character actor, not very well known at the time, but yeah. I mean, Dune was so very different. Again, I think there may have been a certain expectation of what it was. They probably just thought it was space opera. This is Star Wars or something like it. And if they hadn't read the book or been familiar with it at all, which probably a lot of them weren't, I can see why they would have struggled with that. Even Kyle himself struggled in some scenes, and he was very well versed in the source material, but obviously this was a very different interpretation of the source material, so there was also that kind of complexity to it, that it wasn't a straight adaptation. Yeah, I could see why a lot of actors could struggle with it. So it wasn't just Tom Cruise. It wasn't just Tom Cruise who was struggling. Everett McGill, who plays Stilgar, he also commented on this as well, of Val Kilmer's almost casting. He said, quote, "My memories of Val are clearer in that he was represented by my agent. I knew him and I was called to Mexico City just for his test. Val's classical training was at Juilliard, and he showed a smooth yet forceful poise and was very comfortable with the rhythm and texture of the dialogue. I would say his Paul, to use a metaphor, was more Daniel Craig than Pierce Brosnan. I thought he did very well, but later I heard Dino had misgivings over the shape of his lips." What? Why? That little snippet, when I first read this, I was like, what's wrong with his lips? Or what a very weird reason not to cast somebody. Was that the reason? Is that the only reason Val Kilmer didn't have this role? Because of his lips? Probably not. I mean, probably, because he did mention Dino, but obviously David Lynch was the director, so I guess it's a very early time in casting development. Too pouty to be Paul. But out of all of them, I mean, he said he had a very forceful poise and was very comfortable with the dialogue. So, yeah, that could have been really interesting. What could have been? It's so weird to see, like, what could have been when it comes from castings. But you also think about, like, Sean Connery up for the role of Gandalf, and was it Nicolas Cage up for Aragorn as well? But Kyle MacLachlan was the one that just worked. That worked for, the director, that worked for him, and for that particular interpretation. And who knows? I mean, at the time, this was kind of a definite flop. It was not loved by critics at all. There was a real connection with Kyle MacLachlan and David Lynch. There was a real synergy between them, and they worked really well together. And of course, he was brought on for other David Lynch projects to great acclaim. So it did work out at the end.